Okay, welcome back everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today I'm going to talk about a subject that, is not necessarily a learning subject from the standpoint of information, but I think is like an interesting ethical societal question that concerns tax and these other subjects. So we're going to discuss, is paying taxes patriotic? Before we jump into that, please click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, check out our other videos, click the share button, or I don't know, share it with your friends. Click the thumbs up if you like this video at the end. If you think I'm wrong about something, write it in the comments below. If you have questions, write it in the comments below. So let's dive in. Okay, so here's the basic premise of this video, which is the idea that some people seem to have, which is that it's like unpatriotic not to pay tax, and people should be paying more tax. Okay, and is that valid? So I actually am somebody who, I think I'm fairly pragmatic around tax policy, how tax policy is kind of messed up, how it should be reformed. I actually have thought a fair bit about how tax policy could be fairer. I tend to be like a meritocracy type person. I tend to believe in merit. I tend to believe in fairness. I have a strong justice mechanism. And so for me, I think it's actually a bad thing when some people benefit from a tax system and other people do not, right? To me, that's a poor use of resources. The resources should be focused on being having more ingenuity, working harder, applying yourself to being more creative, innovating, selling better, coming up with better products, et cetera, right? So I actually do believe in tax reform. And some of those tax reforms would make taxes higher for certain types of people because I think that there is a fairness thing that is in there. So a really simple example is, I don't think that you should tax income from capital different from income from labor. I think that's like a poor incentive, right? You want to incentivize people to do stuff. That being said, I do really have a problem with the idea that it's like somehow patriotic to pay taxes and not patriotic not to pay taxes. And it starts off with the fact that I think that these people are hypocrites. Okay, so if you're one of those people, I guess I'm calling you a hypocrite. Why do I say that? Well, everyone has the ability to pay whatever the heck they want. Like if you want to overpay your taxes, you can. So if you think that somehow it's magically more patriotic, by all means, over-report your taxes and send more money into the tax department. Great, you're contributing more. Wonderful for you. I mean, if you believe that, that's cool, right? That's great. Aside from that, I just don't tend to believe that in most countries, and I'm going to draw some exceptions here, okay? Like, I actually think when I go to Singapore, I love Singapore. I think Singapore is an exceptionally well-run country. I think their tax system is very fair, and I think I'd be very happy to pay taxes in Singapore, okay? There's a variety of countries that I think the taxes are fair, and, it's perfectly fine to pay that. I'm in Bulgaria right now. Taxes in Bulgaria are very reasonable, right? And let's look at Singapore as a simple example. So Singapore has one of the best education systems in the world. It's super clean. It's super safe. Everything works well. There's pretty good economic opportunities. Their percentage of GDP, or their healthcare system, is really good, right? Their corporate tax rate, and they have what's called a single imputation system, meaning if you pay taxes at the corporate level, there's no tax on dividends. You're talking about 17%. If you have personal earned income, it's like 22%. So 17% to me for world-class living, pretty reasonable. Like, I don't really have a problem with that. I think I know what my money is going towards. I get that. Now, let's kind of compare that on the other side to the US, because you get a lot of these types of comments out of the US, Europe, Australia, kind of these quote-unquote Western developed countries, right? Well, let's look at the situation there. Okay, so education in the US, largely trash, right? Not very good education system at all. The healthcare system, unless you're paying a whole bunch extra for it, not especially good healthcare system, right? But if you just look at the health outcomes, right? Average lifespan, lower. Child mortality, lower. Or higher, I guess, in that particular case. Huge obesity problem. All kinds of different issues with people dying from misdiagnosed, poorly applied drugs, et cetera. Like basically the iatrogenics of the healthcare system are really bad, right? The literacy rates are not amazing, right? The number of people who fall through the cracks and just have horrible education, who go to these horrible schools and are malnourished and things like this. What are you talking about? What is there to be proud of in the way that this system is run. Okay, there's the best military in the world, for sure, right? Okay, great. So if you're a big believer in that, then yes, absolutely, your tax dollars are funding an amazing project in that regard. There's, very sophisticated systems there. The infrastructure is fairly dated. It's definitely world class. Let's compare to Singapore again. They opened the Jewel terminal in the Singapore airport. Now, Singapore airport was already by far the best airport in the world. It's just freaking amazing, right? So good, so good. And then they added this Jewel terminal, which is unbelievable. Like, it just puts every other airport in the world to shame. So you go to LAX. Is that a good experience? No, not really. LaGuardia, JFK? No, not really. Okay, again, what am I paying for here? That's my real question. You're paying dramatically higher taxes, okay? Federal personal income tax rate caps at 37%. Then in a bunch of states, you have, basically it brings you up to 50%. 50% versus 17%. The murder rate is 10x, more than 10x what it is in the US. So the safety is not there. The cleanliness is not there. The education system is dramatically worse. The healthcare system is, okay, you can get very high-end stuff, but certainly on the low end, it's quite bad. To give you some contrast, okay, the US spends approximately 18% of GDP on healthcare at this point in time. Do you know what Singapore spends? 4%. 4% of GDP on healthcare, and they have world-class health outcomes, okay? So to me, is it patriotic to give money to somebody who is wasting your money? I just don't really buy that. If you're in Serbia and the government robs you, right? Basically, the government is, in a lot of these countries, the government is very corrupt. They're stealing all kinds of money. Is it patriotic to give money to that system? I don't really buy that it is. You're just kind of feeding this horrible machine. Now, I don't think it's necessarily patriotic to not pay, right? I think that's the inverse process. But the idea that the government is going to do a better job with your money than you are, to me just strikes me as moronic. It just doesn't make any sense. I think that if you care, what you would probably want to do is you'd probably want to optimize the amount of resources that you have, and then you would want to optimize how you use those resources, because there's nothing stopping you from then taking your resources and applying them to real problems that you think are there. And I would say that's super patriotic, right? If you look at, I was just watching some stuff with the Chan Zuckerberg Institute, so Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Priscilla Chan, some of the stuff they're doing, so they put $100 million into a school division project. They started their own school. They're providing support for mental health. They're providing support for in cases where there's homelessness. They're providing a very holistic approach to try and help improve the outcomes for students. That strikes me as patriotic, right? You're definitely putting your money where your mouth is there. You're definitely getting hands-on and solving things. Seems very patriotic to me. Wonderful. There's lots of ways that you can be patriotic, but I don't buy the argument that somehow legally reducing your taxes is unpatriotic. I don't buy that. I don't think that you're somehow magically a better patriot because you're giving the money. Or maybe the patriotism is just the problem, right? Maybe, hey, listen, should you be patriotic? Should you be patriotic to a country which is just mismanaging your resources? I'm from Canada, right? I look at what they're doing there. I think Justin Trudeau does a horrible job. Horrible job. Absolutely mismanages resources. Just does not have a clue about how to utilize resources very well. Does not get I think he's probably actually quite a well-intentioned guy. I think he's, in that sense. But I don't think he understands, he's just never done anything in his life. He's been a school teacher for a little while and a politician. And doesn't understand production, doesn't understand productivity, doesn't understand adding value, doesn't understand all these different things that go into making prosperity, which can then be shared with everybody. So anyway, that's my opinion. Would love to hear your opinion. If you think that, hey, listen, I'm off my rock and, listen, paying taxes is the greatest thing that a person can do, hey, tell me in the comments. Okay, would love to hear from you. If you've got questions about any of these sorts of things, we deal with international tax planning, asset protection, banking, company formations, payment processing, residencies, citizenships, etc. Please reach out to us, www.offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. You can book a call with me, clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer. And subscribe to the channel, check out our other stuff. I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.